So hi everyone, and welcome to Marketplace Thursday, where we will be getting some valuable updates from our Marketplace partner, LifeSaver Mobile. They are in the Marketplace driver management and training category and have been our Marketplace partner for the past 18 months. Really glad that you could join us today. My name is Sue Miller. I'm a broadcast producer here at Geotab and your host for today's session. So presenting today for LifeSaver Mobile is Ted Chen, co-founder, and Tim Buskey, channel sales director. Ted, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sue. Really appreciate the opportunity to present to the Geotab community, and thanks so much for having us. So LifeSaver Mobile, what is it? We are a driver safety solution for commercial fleets, and we take a much simpler approach to the problem of driver safety, which of course, as most people know, and I'm going to switch to the screens here, is a very top pain point for fleet operators today. What you see here on the screen is a Bobbitt survey from 2021, in which where they asked fleet operators what were the biggest pain points for them. And of course, I think we all know that driver hiring and retention is the top pain point. And then of course, driver safety is right behind it. So clearly a big thing that's on fleet operators' minds these days. And what I'll say about it is the two are kind of, very closely related as well, right? Because as people are having more trouble hiring drivers out there, they're obviously having to dip into the labor pool even further and perhaps hiring less qualified, less experienced drivers, in which case safety becomes obviously even more of an issue. So these two things are quite closely related. So what can fleet operators do about fleet safety in this current environment? And we all know lots of the different things that are out there in the marketplace today, including the global chip shortage, which is clearly a problem from a supply chain issue. And so one of the things in terms of fleet safety and driver safety is if you can avoid additional hardware, maybe you already have your telematics, and maybe you're having trouble with getting some cameras because cameras are backlogged. What can you do in the near term? Well, clearly, one of the things you could do is look for solutions that don't require additional hardware. And so that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on in this current supply chain shortage or supply chain constrained environment. And we don't have any hardware. We don't have any beacon or any other type of hardware that you need to install in the vehicle. So it makes it really, really easy for you to tackle safety, which is such a big deal right now. And of course, for your accounts. So what does it look like in terms of the portfolio of solutions? And we firmly believe this. We talk to fleets all the time, and they agree, and I'm sure the reseller community agrees as well, that it takes a village in order to create a comprehensive approach to driver safety. As you can see here on this chart, on the left-hand side, we've attempted to list out most of the unsafe driving behaviors that commercial fleets, encounter. And then, of course, if you look across the columns here, you're looking at three different types of solutions. Obviously, LifeSaver Mobile, Geotab, and then your camera solutions. And you see, just at a glance, how everything works kind of hand in hand and complementary together to bring you a comprehensive driver safety solution or coverage, if you will. And that's really the goal here, is to get as comprehensive as possible with within the constraints of whatever budget that the fleet operator has. And so I'll draw your attention to the phone handling phone calls, and speeding, of course, which we handle all three. And we'll talk a little bit more about the speeding in just a few minutes. But on the phone handling side, you can see that the little red circle slash is represented there And we really adopt the philosophy that if you can block that screen or block the phone call from happening, that's going to be much more effective than detecting something and then warning them and having to coach it up afterwards. So clearly we think that prevention is better than detection and coaching. But again, once the whole idea is that these things are complementary to each other. So what is it that it kind of sets us apart from all some of the other driver safety solutions out there? Again, we are software only. I said that before. I think the fact that we're proactive, we're dealing with the driver behavior and correcting it in cab, so there's less coaching on the back end, and then we're tackling those two biggest risk factors that we talked about: phone distraction and speeding. If you talk to any insurance company that writes fleet insurance, they'll tell you that those are the two biggest risk factors for collisions these days, is phone distraction on the crash frequency side and speeding on the crash severity side. So we really believe that those two things, if you tackle them, you're tackling a bulk of the problem. In terms of our platform, and I'll just spend a couple slides here on what the solution looks like so you get a really good idea of what that looks like. It is a software-only platform. Apologies for the wonkiness of the fonts there. They didn't translate very well. But it is an app, a mobile app deployed to the driver's device and then controlled by the portal, which is obviously accessed by any of the managers that you give access to within the company. Now, what does the app do? The app is basically it can impose 3 types of driving restrictions in cab on the driver during the drive. So very real time, very proactive, very preventive, and again, with less coaching. What are those 3 restrictions? So the first and foremost that everyone looks for is screen blocking. I don't want my driver to have access to the screen, because if they do, then they're taking their eyes off the road, and that's the first and biggest problem. Second, some portion of the fleets out there want to block the calls or just know when those calls are being made, so the reporting of those calls, and that can be done also by our system. And then third of all, the speeding alerts, which I mentioned earlier. This is a little different than a beep. We actually, our speed alerts are verbal. So it's a little bit like GoTalk in that, GoTalk will tell you when you've crossed the speed threshold. It'll warn you, and then it'll tell you when you've triggered a violation. Same thing here. We use a third-party data source to tell us what the posted limits are, but you can either have posted limits or you can have maximum speed limits. And in either case, you tell within the portal, you set what those messages are, and they are read to the driver. The driver hears those messages, and they can be either typed in to the portal or they can be uploaded through an audio file. So it's a little bit different. It's not a beep. It's a verbal message. We think it's a little bit more effective in that it will get the driver to think twice about how their speeding is affecting their driving and their safety. And with that, I actually have a short little clip, which I think is only less than a minute, and I'm going to try to show you that speeding demo now.
Speeding detected. Slow down to avoid a violation. Speeding detected. Speed violation recorded.
Once again, those messages are determined by the managers in the portal, and then they can be either typed in or uploaded through an audio file. So back to our slides here. So this is the portal. I showed you what the app does. So on the portal side, the portal basically controls how and when those restrictions occur. Actually, it's your entire control panel for the entire program. And if you see here on the lower right-hand side, three primary functions, deployment, configuration, and reporting is all done through the portal. The screenshot here represents what we've done in terms of integration into the MyGeotab dashboard, so you can manage your LifeSaver portal inside your MyGeotab dashboard, as you can see from this screenshot. That's a pretty standard integration. We have single sign-on, so this integration allows you as a Geotab account to single sign-on access to your LifeSaver portal inside your MyGeotab dashboard. And of course, the other advantage here is that you can leverage the driver roster, if you have one within Geotab, to simplify your setup, driver profile setup in your LifeSaver account as well. So I alluded to a couple integrations that we did at the outset, and wanted to show you some of the new features, including that speeding alerts video that I showed you just now. But here's another example of something new that's been released since we initially launched in the marketplace. So we worked with Geotab on an implementation to integrate with Geotab Drive. What we found, and you may recall from that previous slide, we said, it's contextual. Our restrictions are contextual, right? They only occur when you're driving and when you're on duty. Well, there's many different ways that a fleet can tell us when their drivers are on duty, including within the portal. There's shift management within the portal. But one very cool way that we've worked with Geotab on is integrating with Geotab Drive. So Geotab Drive, as you guys on the call know, is the ELD solution for Geotab. And when a fleet is using Geotab Drive, they can obviously the driver can click their on duty or off duty, and that's a perfect signal for us to know whether that driver is on duty or off duty, and whether to impose those restrictions while they're driving. So we thought this would be a great way to offer to Geotab fleets the ability to signal on-duty status to us. And so we worked on this integration, which you see here on the screen. Of course, you can see how the two work hand in hand. We have some fleets out there today that are using it, which are very pleased with the integration. On the next slide here, just a quick example of how our system works from a high-level perspective. So if you look at the three columns here, the first column is during the drive, second column is right after the drive, and the third column is a little bit later after the drive. And what you're seeing here is that our system shifts that burden of coaching, away, the burden away from coaching, and really focuses on correcting that driver behavior during the drive. And how we do that is, of course, how we just talked about earlier with the blocking of the screen, blocking of calls, and those verbal speed alerts all can really fix that problem in cab during the drive before a coaching event has to occur. What the system also has a kind of a report card, a scorecard that's pushed to both the drivers and to the managers. The driver gets their own, of course, and the manager gets a group one. And those happen the morning after, so that the driver knows exactly what they did to trigger a violation the previous day, and then they can fix it themselves. Or the manager has the exception reports to notice trends, and then down the road they can figure out whether they need to have a coaching event with that driver. So who do we focus on in terms of ideal customer profile? We really focus on kind of larger customers, minimum 50. Reason why we really do that is because our system really kind of depends on the fact that, someone is going to be looking after the driver accountability, right? If the drivers, as you know, with any app, if a driver can, or any device can, the driver can remove that app from the device, right? So if you remove it, that removal is reported. But if you have no one looking after the system to look at those exception reports, then the drivers just kind of fall off. So that kind of, 50 is sort of the arbitrary but fairly reliable signal to us that there is a safety-minded person that's employed by that fleet operator and can be looking at those exception reports and making sure that the app stays on the device. Now, we like corporate issued devices because it's easier to mandate on a corporate issued device. And if you have mobile device management, which is a type of software, you can actually lock down all apps that are on the phone, in which case that the exception reporting accountability becomes less of an issue. So that's kind of the ideal customer profile. In terms of verticals, we work with work truck, we work with last mile delivery, we work with sales and service. All those things are the typical types of fleets that we work with. We're on the delivery side with the pandemic. You can imagine that's growing quite quickly, and that's the biggest area of growth for our customer base. We work with some of the largest fleets in North America, a package delivery fleet out there. Top 3 in the country, North America, or in the continent, is also one of our customers too. On the persona side, just to kind of round out the picture here, we work primarily with corporate safety and with the IT folks, because the IT folks manage those corporate devices. But we also work with fleet management. And I'm sure as folks that are working with telematics, with pitching Geotab, you guys are working primarily with fleet management and corporate safety as well. So where to find us in the marketplace? As Sue said, we are in the driver management and training category. So I just took a quick screenshot here to show you where to find us. Basically, in the marketplace, as you probably know, there's 2 categories of safety. There's driver management and training, and then there's cameras. And those are pretty much those 2 categories. So if you go to the driver management and training category, you'll pretty much always find us in that top row, because we have a very simple solution, and it seems pretty popular with the Geotab fleet community. In terms of some of the advantages of our system, I think you've heard some of this throughout the presentation, but I'll kind of reiterate some of them. Obviously, no hardware, no dongles, no beacons, no extra hardware. Real-time alerts, so everything's in cab, and then with the exception reporting on the morning after. Very quick, rapid deployment, because there is no hardware to install. So that just becomes an over-the-air type of process, and can be done anytime by the fleet. Usually the longest, the longest piece in that process is getting those driver profiles into the system so that you can associate the devices with the drivers. We are proactive in terms of just stopping the problem before it starts, and of course cost effective in that there is no extra hardware to install. And we do our pricing is on a 12-month. We price on a 12-month subscription basis. Now, working with our Geotab partners here, if you guys are billing monthly, we're totally flexible with that. We just we'll adopt whatever cycle and cadence that you guys have. So here on the last slide, and I'll just kind of sum up some of the things on why we'd love to work with you. And why, out of those 200 marketplace partners, why we'd like you to consider us. Clearly, fleets want this type of safety solution. Safety is the #2 pain point. Phone distraction, speeding are the 2 biggest risk factors. So fleets really want it. And so I don't think you're going to find too many fleets that will object to hearing more about it. Secondly, again, just not to sound like a broken record, but no extra hardware. And with that, no beacons, no supply chain issues, and over-the-air deployment is super easy. So we can pilot overnight on demand whenever you want. Less coaching, which who doesn't like less coaching? So in-cab prevention means less coaching by the managers. And we're always continually innovating, of course. I gave you 2 examples with the verbal speed alerts, as well as the Geotab Drive integration, and more to come. We're working on some cool things that I'll hopefully can share with you in just a few months. And then we're partner friendly, right? Easy to partner with. We have generous economics, and we've had some pretty good success in the reseller community so far. We've partnered with some of the leading Geotab resellers, and we'd love to partner with you as well. And with that, this is the last slide here. Just wanted to make sure that you knew how to reach us. So it's myself and Tim Buskey, who's also on this webinar today. And you can always reach out to any of us to find out more about the solution, and also to find out more about how to become a partner of ours. And with that, I think I'll stop there and see if there were any questions or comments from the audience.
Well, thank you, Ted, for such a great presentation. And yes, we do have some questions for you. The first one is, are you planning on having this integration with UIs for both mobile and platform in Spanish and Portuguese languages for the Latin American market?
That's a good question. So we actually have a Geotab partner in Central America, and they've expressed some interest in taking us to that market. And I think what we have tentatively agreed to with that partner is that we would work on the localization of the portal side, but not necessarily the app side, because the app side primarily is not something that the driver has to interact with. It's really more of an obstruction to the driver. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And of course, if the partner or the Geotab accounts feel strongly about having the app also localized, we would look seriously at that. But thanks for that question.
Okay. We have a couple more here. Are there any setup fees and or hardware costs for the LifeSaver program?
No, actually, everything is included in that software as a service model. That subscription basically includes the entire platform, both the app side and the portal side and all the reporting. And I neglected to sort of say that we also have partner APIs and customer APIs. So if a customer says, hey, you know what, it's nice to have it in my Geotab dashboard, but I have another system, I have a TMS that I'd like to pull some data into from LifeSaver, that's possible too because of our APIs that we have now available to them. But yeah, back to your question about pricing. No, everything is captured in that software as a service subscription model. The only thing I would say is the speeding feature, which I showed you earlier on that video clip, is an incremental cost because we use a third party to get that speed limit data, and so we have to account for that cost.
Okay. Can I manage the LifeSaver program through MyGeotab dashboard?
I think that's probably an older question, but so we showed you that on the screen there. We integrated into the dashboard, and of course, I'll show you that screen again. That was the first thing we did when we joined the marketplace 18 months ago, and I think that's been a pretty popular integration, single sign-on, and the roster integration as well.
Okay, great. I do have one more question here. Does LifeSaver work with personal phones?
Good question. Yeah, I mean, it works on any phone, of course. A phone or tablet, I should say, Android or iOS. And so we're agnostic that way. Any handset, of course, as well, and any MDM, right? We're not an MDM, so the MDM partners love us as well and refer us business. So we're quite agnostic in that whole ecosystem of fleet sort of solutions, if you will. But on the phone side, Yeah, the only the downside to a personal phone, of course, is the company doesn't control that phone, so they can't necessarily mandate that the employee use it on their personal phone. Having said that, many of our fleets actually have found that they have enough leverage to convince the employee to do so on their personal phone. So whether it be some sort of stipend for a monthly cell phone service, or just a strict policy with repercussions if you use the personal phone, whatever the case may be, if the company has enough leverage over the employee and the safety of that employee, they can. We've seen that happen where they can mandate the use of LifeSaver on a personal device. But again, back to the ideal customer profile, we certainly prefer fleets that are using corporate devices.
Okay. Well, I think that's it for the questions. I don't see any others coming in. I want to thank you again, Ted, for your very informative presentation and update. So that's a wrap for this week's Marketplace Thursday. And if you have any further questions regarding today's presentation, please do not hesitate to reach out to Ted or Tim or the Marketplace team at marketplace.geotab.com. And with that, until next time, I am Sue Miller, and on behalf of myself and everyone here at Geotab, I thank you for joining us on today's Marketplace Thursday. We'll see you all next time. Same Geotab time, same Geotab channel. Thanks, everyone.